Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. Today I want to talk about the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. That's known as DACA. It was an Obama message that Trump abandoned in September, throwing it to the Congress for resolution. I've asked Allan Wernick, director of CUNY Citizenship Now, professor of law at Baruch College, and writer of columns and books, to tell us what could happen to the 800,000 Dreamers now facing the possibility of deportation. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
This situation gets worse every day.
Well, yes, it does, but you know, the DACA program is still in existence. People who have DACA can continue in that status until their status expires. The program has been extended for 6 months. There was an opportunity for people to apply for 2-year extensions. So under the current plan is, under the Trump administration's program.
Let me just say one thing.
Sure.
If you qualified for the DACA
Sure.
program, meaning you were a child who was a person who was brought here as a child.
That's correct.
By undocumented people, you had to renew the permit every 2 years.
Right. So let's just talk about the process a little bit.
Yeah.
So you had to apply. You had to have been here before the age of 16.
Mm-hmm.
You had to have been under the age of 31 at the time in June 2012 when Obama began the program. You had to have been here for 5 years. You applied for DACA beginning in August of 2012. People got 2-year status, allowed them to work, allowed them to travel with special permission, allowed them to be here with some protection from deportation, although it wasn't absolute deportation. And then before your 2-year status was to expire, you applied again for renewal. So what President Trump did is he said, look, if your status is going to expire between the time of his announcement and March, which was in September, and March 5th of 2018, you could apply for a renewal and you would be considered for a 2-year extension. So the people who've been applying now, and there was a deadline of October 5th, so it's too late to apply now, but in the month from September 5th to October 5th, during that period, people were allowed to apply for renewals, and we expect most of those people to get 2-year renewals. The problem is on March 6th, you see, if your status was...
Just before you go
sure.
there were more than 30,000 people that didn't reapply.
Well, that's what the government is reporting. Yeah. We don't know why those people didn't apply. First of all, some of them may have other paths to legal status. Some of them may have hopefully, some of them may have left the United States. Some of them may have indeed been afraid to apply. We don't really know we don't know why those 30,000 people didn't apply.
And the administration didn't formally announce it to them.
Well,
they had this option, right?
Well, the administration didn't notify them. Of course, the announcement were made.
Yeah.
And I should just say, because I was quoted in an article, you know, the reporter asked me, do you think the administration should have written to all these people? I said, yes, they should have. I said, but I don't think that's why those 30,000 didn't apply.
Didn't come.
And if I can just get on my high horse for just 1 second.
Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes there's a very paternalistic attitude towards these young immigrants. They know about this process. There may be a few who don't, and maybe a few who are afraid, but by and large, I think most of them do have the knowledge and experience.
Right.
And if you look at the cohort, they're very technologically savvy, so
they should have,
they should have done it. So the problem is going to be, if your DACA expires on March 6th of 2018 or after, you don't have the right to renew under the current program of the Trump administration. So that's really the group that we're worried about. So we have a few months, because if there's an extension, either through an administrative extension from the Trump administration or a legislative solution, then those people could be taken care of. And I should tell you, I'm very optimistic that something will happen.
I know you are.
I know. Well, I've written about it. But I think if you think about it, look, the Trump administration said that the Obama program was illegal. But if the program's illegal, how can they extend it for 6 months? So if the original program was illegal, how could the extension be legal? Well, I think that there's some debate over whether Obama did have the power, didn't have the power. It's somewhat unresolved. But it seems that the Trump administration thinks that Obama had the power, and the Democrats think Obama had the power. So apparently Obama had the power, at least as we can...
So do you think there's a case in court?
Okay, so there's a few reasons why I'm optimistic. First of all, I think that there's a good chance there'll be a legislative solution. Now, I know the Trump administration has now come out with a very punitive and anti-immigrant and restrictionist approach to this whole compromise and debate. He's saying that, you know, he wants millions of dollars for enforcement, interior enforcement, border enforcement, more immigration judges, and he wants that as an alternative to give a few 100,000 undocumented immigrants out of 11 million the right to stay in the United States. I don't think the Democrats are going to agree to that. I don't think the DACA kids, the majority of them, I call them kids, young adults, they're going to be supportive of that. But I think it's only, you know, October. We have until March. Right. So I think there's plenty of time. I think there's a lot of Republicans who are very open and anxious to provide some kind of relief to DACA. We have the business community, the religious community. You know, we have big labor. We have, you know, I've often said about immigration debate, you know, when you have management and labor both on the same side of an issue, who's left to oppose it, right? Well, it's a wedge issue to some people. I understand that. But I think that there's enough sympathy for the people in DACA. We can have a legislative solution.
Hear that. That's very good.
And let me just say, if there's not, of course, Trump could say, okay, we're going to do it for 3 more months, or we're going to do it another 6 months. He always has the option to do that. And I think that he's got a lot on his plate, and he needs to have some victories. So he needs to have, you know, you can't fight everyone at once. And I think this is, like I said, a very popular and well-respected, well-regarded cohort. They have the support of a tremendous amount of political leadership and power in this country. I'm optimistic. But I should tell you that at CUNY Citizenship Now, we're not assuming that that's going to happen. And
let's talk about that.
Great. So,
what is CUNY Citizenship Now?
So CUNY Citizenship Now is a program that started over 20 years ago. Originally,
you started it.
I was one of the people that started it, yes.
And you were still at Baruch then?
No, at that time I was at Ostos Community College. And we started that project to help our students become U.S. citizens. It was directed primarily at our student body, although if their family members wanted to come, they were invited. We just didn't market it outside of the university. We didn't turn anyone away. And what we did, it's interesting, we trained people on all of our college campuses to work as like legal assistants, and we had a team that went around to every campus. And in those days, you had to submit photographs and fingerprints. And I was very proud of the university that they paid for everything. So, you know, when I...
How did you manage this?
How do we manage this?
How did you manage to get this program?
Well, how do we manage to get this program? Well, the Chancellor and Vice Chancellor Jay Herson at that time was the Vice Chancellor, and Chancellor, let me see, who was the Chair? Reynolds was the Chancellor then. And they supported it. They thought it was a good idea. And so they funded this, you know, they funded it. I did a proposal. They asked me to do a proposal, and I did you know, small, medium, and large project in one proposal, and they went for the large. They went for helping every student in CUNY apply for U.S. citizenship in all the schools. And we started that way, and now 20 years later, we market our services to the whole public at large. We do citizenship, but we do other things. We help people with green card applications, help people with deferred action for childhood arrivals, temporary protective status. So we provide a broad range of immigration services. All of our services are free. We have 6 offices. Through the generosity of the New York City Council, we're funded to provide attorneys in the offices of city council members. We're in 34 offices, and those are highly skilled, highly trained attorneys. Then about twice a month, we provide free assistance in community activities where we help people with citizenship, and those are also sponsored by the City Council and the national, by the City Council and other organizations.
You started though as an immigration attorney? I
was an immigration attorney before I came to Ostos College. I was practicing law. I had a small, what we call a boutique practice, doing only immigration.
What made you pick immigration?
Well, it was really just by accident. I mean, that's it's a fun story. We don't have time for the whole thing right now, but I'll do a summary of it.
All right.
Well, you know, I was in law school and I wanted to do something progressive. It was the days of the 60s and 70s, the anti-war movement, and people I wanted to do the right thing. And I started hanging out with other lawyers who wanted to do the right thing, and law students. And it just happened that I joined what we used to call an urban commune in those days, a bunch of people living together, but in a city. And one of the leaders in the commune also directed an immigration project in a Mexican community organization in downtown Los Angeles. That's where I went to law school. And the first year after summer after law school, I started doing immigration, and then I just stayed with it. In those days, there weren't a lot of people doing immigration law. So you became an expert real quick, because an expert is just somebody that knows more than the next guy or gal, right? So I became an expert, you know, just because I knew more than other people. So that was really by accident, but it's been real good to me.
And then you moved to New York. Then
I moved to New York, and eventually, I opened a law practice. I like to think I was successful, but it wasn't very satisfying. I did a lot of pro bono work, and so what happened was I had two jobs, you know. I did the pro bono job, which is a full-time job, and then I had to support the other job. And after a while, two jobs, you know, got to be too much for me. As I turned into my late 30s, I thought that's too much, and I decided to look for one job where I can get paid and enjoy it and make a contribution. So I went into teaching at Ostos. I was very fortunate. I taught there in Spanish and English originally. It's a bilingual college, and I had a lot of fun, and I started an immigration service program there. There was a local program right at Ostos College, and then so when the university wanted to do immigration services university-wide, I guess they heard my name, and I was called.
Great.
It was great. It is
Boy,
great.
The university is certainly lucky that it found you.
And I'm very lucky to find the university. You know, I should tell you that there's no other university in the country that provides anything near the services that we provide for immigrants amongst our student body, their families, their friends, and of course the community at large. But you know, when DACA happened in June 2012, when it was announced, universities across the country are scrambling to find legal services. Where are we going to get the funding? Where are we going to find the lawyers? Do we have anyone that's trained to do this? Well, we have a clinic here and a clinic there. Here at CUNY, we just geared up and we were ready to go. And by the time the applications were accepted, we already had events set up at colleges throughout the system, because we had the base there. We had the existence of a trained staff.
So you've been in existence for 20 years.
Been in existence for 20 years, of course not at this level.
Where is your central office?
So we have an administrative office at 31st and 6th Avenue, but our services are provided at 6 offices throughout New York City. And if people want to find us, they should go to our website, which is cuny.edu/citizenship now. They will find out how to contact our 6 offices for free services. Again, I repeat that our services are open to the public. We have no geographic limitations, or you don't have to be affiliated with CUNY. We're also in 34 city council offices at least once or twice a week. Of course, those are located all over New York City, and we can make an appointment for there. We have full services. Finally, we have an office in the Mexican consulate. We received funding from a foundation. It's a very exciting project because, you know, the Mexican immigrants come to the consulate, of course, for all kinds of other services to get passports, documents, and we're right upstairs. So if somebody has an immigration problem, we can make an appointment. And we have an attorney and a full-time attorney, a full-time paralegal right there on the spot. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing.
It's great. I have the best public interest lawyer job in America. That's what I think.
And you love it so much.
I do love it.
That's what makes it so great. So how many students that you have go on to, they don't get a law degree from you? They have to go to law school?
Well, yes. I mean, in terms of the teaching, at Baruch College, you know, I teach in an undergraduate law program. We're part of the business school, and the Baruch College has for a number of the majors in business, there is a law requirement, contracts law and other legal law course requirements. But this is an undergraduate program. Of course, CUNY has its own law school, an outstanding school, a great new facility in Long Island City, very easy to get to, and a night program now, so which I'm very pleased with, because I know a number of the students that I had at Baruch College, they have to work, right? They said, what are you going to do when you graduate? I got to get a job. You know, I got to start supporting my family. You know, 80% of my students, now my class may not be typical, but about 80% of my students were born in a foreign country. And over 90% had at least one foreign member of their household. So, you know, CUNY is the immigrant school. We estimate the people who make these estimates say that over 40% of our students are born in a foreign country. But if you consider how many of those students also have at least one parent born in a foreign country, it's probably well over 60%. Those are the matriculated students. If you count another 250,000 continuing ed students, my guess the statistics are a lot higher. I mean, it's an immigrant city, and of course CUNY's the College of the Immigrant.
How many, do you have any idea how many students are undocumented?
Well, the estimates are about 6,500 undocumented students in CUNY. I was starting to say before, one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to encourage all the undocumented students to come see us. We're finding that about 10% of the people that we screen for DACA had a potential to get some other kind of more permanent benefit.
That's interesting.
So, for instance, somebody came in the United States surreptitiously, what we lawyers say, entry without inspection. It's hard to get a green card even if you marry a U.S. citizen, but it's not impossible. And people don't realize we have the services, we can help that person if they marry a citizen. Some people may, if they're a crime victim, they may qualify for a visa special for crime victims. So what we're encouraging these undocumented students to do is to come see us. We have well-trained attorneys. The services are free. We'll sit down with you. We'll screen you. Maybe you qualify for another benefit, or at least give you an idea.
When somebody comes and says, I'm going to marry an American citizen and I want to apply for a green card, you take them through the whole procedure? Do you tell them the kind of questions they're going to be asked and how much they have to know each other's habits and stuff like that?
Sure, of course. I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, you know, we don't recommend, you know, I certainly don't recommend, and it's not just for ethical reasons
Right.
that people get involved in phony marriages. I mean,
Right.
it's not just ethical reasons, but I see so many problems, you know, people demanding sexual favors, people demanding more money. If you get caught in a phony marriage scheme, you could be barred from ever getting a green card forever. So we don't recommend it. But yes, we take people through the whole entire process, and for the people that came in entry without inspection, we will help them get a waiver. And so again, all our services are free, very high, I'd like to think very high quality. I can say that because as an administrator, I don't actually provide the services, I'm just bragging about my staff. And so we're encouraged. But not everyone, I mean, that's the other thing I would say is, and this is something that the public needs to understand, not everyone has a path to legal status. A lot of times people say, well, you know, you should go see Allan Wernick. You know, he knows everything, he'll help. Allan Wernick can't make somebody who can't help someone who's not qualified for a benefit get a benefit.
What kind of a person isn't qualified?
Well,
is there a general thing?
Well, if you came in surreptitiously, entry without inspection, that makes it much more difficult. Basically, unless you marry a U.S. citizen, if you came in that way, you're not going to get a green card. If you look at you know, what is the #1 group of people who are undocumented in the United States ethnically? They're people from Mexico and a very large portion from Central America. Most of those people did come in that way. So they're never going to get a green card unless they marry a citizen. So that's very, very difficult. Even people who came here legally, if they don't marry, again, they're going to have a very hard time.
They overextended their visa.
They overstayed because it's because of something that happened in 1996 when President Clinton signed the Immigration Reform Act. It created difficulties for people who are here illegally and getting permanent residence, made it harder. So that law was supposed to drive people out of the United States. The idea was everybody was going to be leaving because there'd be penalties for staying illegally. Instead, it trapped people in because now you can't leave. Because if you leave, you're not going to come back for 10 years, you see. So it had an unintended consequences, we say.
Can they really pass legislation with unintended it always amazes me. It's just, you know, how does that happen?
Listen, when that law passed, I got calls from reporters, and they said, we want to know which airlines we should go to. We want to interview people who are leaving the United States. I started laughing. I said, you're not going to, people are not leaving. People who have homes here, who have jobs here are not going to leave just because you take away a future benefit to get a green card, because they're here and they're integrated in society. Some of them don't really know another home. Some of them, you know, many of them not been home. Even the ones who came here as adults, they've been here 20, 30, 40 years, some of them. So, you know, where are they going to, you know?
Do you have an estimate of how many undocumented people in the city?
Well, there's a number of different estimates. I mean, some people say, I don't know, some people say 600, 800,000, a million. You know, I should tell you that I'm always skeptical of the numbers. I think no one really knows. That's what I would say, but certainly hundreds of thousands of people are here undocumented.
New York City isn't the only place that there are large numbers.
Of course. Long Island, Westchester County is larger, especially upstate New York now is construction. You know,
it's interesting, isn't it? You have different groups in different places.
Yes, you do. You have different nationalities in different areas, and there's congregations of, you know, Haitians in one area, Salvadorans in another area. But if you look at what are the 3 industries that immigrants are most commonly employed in? Construction, agribusiness, and hospitality, right? So New York is the center of hospitality in the whole world. And then upstate New York has a lot of, agriculture, agribusiness, the wineries, and of course, apples and other agribusiness. And then of course, we have construction is very big all throughout New York State. We're in a construction boom. So there are people, and now that once people get a little bit of money, they want to move to an area maybe they think the schools are a little better, or there's a crime rate is less, or they can get a bigger accommodation for less money. So where can you do that? In Long Island, some parts of Westchester County. I know it's expensive there, but there are parts that are not as expensive, or even further upstate. So,
do you think there's any real possibility of ever establishing a safe, just immigration system?
I do. I actually do, and I think it even could happen under President Trump. If you look at the history of immigration policy in the United States, the recent history, well, we had President Reagan signed, at that time was the most generous amnesty legalization program ever in the history of the country. Over almost 3.5 million people got their green cards through that program. And President Clinton, as I mentioned, passed the most restrictive immigration legislation in 50 years, since the Walter McCarran Act of 1952. So you can see that immigration is not a partisan issue. It's really a question of political forces. Now, people used to ask me, at what level, and I would say, well, the reason it's so hard to pass immigration reform is because unemployment is so high. This is years ago. People said, well, what level of unemployment do you think you need to pass immigration reform? I said under 5%. Well, right now we're at 4.2, right? 4.4. So I think it's possible. The other thing is, I don't think that Trump is an anti-immigrant. I know a lot of people would disagree with that, but my view of President Trump is that he wants to win. He doesn't really have any values. So pro-immigrant, anti-immigrant, it's all the same to him. If he can win, and by the way, President Carter, ex-President Carter said the same thing about a week after I wrote an article in the Daily News saying this. He says, you never know. Carter said, look, I tried to pass immigration reform. It's impossible because I was a Democrat and the Republicans wouldn't let me. Now we have a Republican. When Ronald Reagan passed that law, the AFL-CIO had a very restrictive immigration position. They wouldn't have said that, but it's true. Now they have a very progressive immigration position. So like I said before, you have labor and management on the same side. Who's against it? Agribusiness is in favor of it. The construction business is in favor of it. New tech is in favor of it. The labor unions are in favor of it.
We know a small minority that Trump always likes to appeal to.
That's right, but can you keep that up forever?
I don't.
Number one. And number two, we'll see what happens in 2018. Don't forget that there was a bill in 2013, the Senate, bipartisan Senate, passed with a veto-proof majority, comprehensive immigration reform. It had enough votes in the House, but Speaker Bonner refused to bring it up for a vote. If he had brought it up for a vote, we would have immigration reform today. So it's not impossible. It's not likely, I don't think, but I think it's not impossible. Stranger things have happened. It's like the Nixon, people say, well, it's like Nixon going to China. It's a little different because that was a little bit more of foreign policy, a little bit more of an independent move. This is a little bit more complicated. But I think that once it becomes clear to particularly the powerful economic interests in this country that we're going nowhere, and then the workers who are some of the workers who are Trump's base are saying, well, we're not going anywhere either. Our wages aren't going up. Nothing good is happening for us. And people start to link those two things, that this isolationist, anti-immigrant approach of the administration is holding back the economy. Who knows, maybe stranger things have happened, put it that way.
I think you have to become more political. I know you're committed to your practicing of the kinds of things you are, but somebody has to get that message to the president.
Well,
other than some of the members of his staff.
Well, I try to, I write for the Daily News. They've been very generous. I write 2 columns a week every Tuesday and Friday. But the news has been very generous in letting me write opinion pieces, which I do occasionally. I do the best I can to get the word out there. I'm on Twitter. I hope people will follow me, and I'm trying to do the best I can. And of course, I consult and discuss these ideas with other people who are really in the trenches.
What's your project with the Daily News other than writing? Well,
of course, I do the writing once a year, and CUNY and the Daily News, for 1 week, we answer phone calls from all over the country, mainly New York City, but from all over the country. This last year we expanded. We have 80 phone lines, 40 in English and other languages, and 40 in Spanish. We train volunteers. CUNY has a very robust volunteer program, over 400 active volunteers. That means people who've volunteered with us at least once in the last year. We train them. We put them on a desk, give them a computer, give them materials, and then we have attorneys circle the room. If they can't answer a college question, they hold up a stop sign. The attorney comes and helps them answer the question. And it's gotten great support from the Daily News. It's gotten great support from the City University. Chancellor Milliken, our new chancellor, well, not so new anymore, but he's been here a few years, has been very supportive of it. You know, the governor has been very supportive of it. The mayor's been very supportive of it. So we have many city council members who've come every year. The Speaker Vivarito was here last year. Senator Schumer comes every year. Senator Gillibrand is a regular as well. And of course now, you know, when, you know, Senator Schumer, if I could just say one comment, you asked me about immigration reform. You know, there's nobody in Congress, I think, that knows more about immigration law and policy than Senator Schumer. And for him now to be the minority leader.
It's too bad.
Well, no, what do you mean it's too bad?
I mean, he should be the majority.
Oh, yes, of course. No, but I mean, at least we have somebody who knows the issue, who's heading up the Democratic Party. Instead of, yes, of course, it'd be better if he was majority leader.
So we've come to the end of this. I want to know, how many honors have you been given?
I don't know. Well, I've been honored at a few things.
Well, you deserve a lot of them.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Allan Wernick. Thank you.
Thank you.
We at CUNY TV always like to hear from our viewers. So if you have any subjects you'd like to explore or people you'd like to hear, please let us know. Write to us at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or go to our website, cuny.tv, and click on Contact Us. We look forward to hearing from you.